This was something that was shocking.
Earthquakes are a fact of life in Japan. 13 major quakes have hit the country in the last 100 years, killing over 150,000 people. The country sits on the boundaries of 4 massive tectonic plates. As these plates shift, the movement triggers quakes along a network of thousands of fault lines under Japan. Kobe lies 200 kilometers north of the nearest plate boundary, called the Nankai Trough, so major quakes in the region are very rare. But this time, tectonic movement at this boundary is big enough to reach Kobe. Seismic equipment reveals that the quake is magnitude 7.2, powerful enough to be picked up by sensors on the other side of the planet. The quake scores a direct hit on Kobe City, but scientists are puzzled to find that its original epicenter is 15 kilometers away. It doesn't seem to make any sense. This should put Kobe outside the zone of severe damage. So what did cause the destruction in Kobe City? January 17th, 1995. A magnitude 7.2 earthquake devastates the Japanese city of Kobe. The quake's epicenter is under Awaji Island in a fault well known to seismologists. But a quake here should only cause serious damage in Awaji. It cannot explain the scale of the devastation 15 kilometers away in Kobe. This could only be caused by a fault rupturing directly under the city. Experts analyze hundreds of sensor readings from the Kobe quake and discover a shocking fact. There's a subterranean fault line beneath the Akashi Channel that scientists were completely unaware of. Previous surveys didn't pick it up. It's not large, but it links the Awaji fault to a fault directly under Kobe. January 16th, 11:49 p.m. The series of small quakes that Toshio Arimoto sees in the Osaka Earthquake Observatory are not just harmless tremors. It's the ground on either side of the fault line beginning to shift, 15 kilometers beneath the surface of Awaji Island. 5:46 a.m. and 52 seconds. Scientists are now certain that the violence of the Awaji earthquake triggers a chain reaction through the undiscovered fault. The quake now races along this fault towards Kobe at 9,000 kilometers per hour. 6 seconds later, the fault under the city ruptures. It's a direct hit. The earthquake goes off with the energy of a 65-kiloton nuclear bomb. Even if Arimoto had known about the undiscovered fault line, the initial tremors don't necessarily indicate that a quake is imminent.
I suppose if you look at it afterwards, you could see it as a foreshock. But there's no way to predict there's going to be a huge disaster from just observing a bunch of tremors.
Even today, it remains impossible to predict an earthquake. It's clear how the quake scores a direct hit on Kobe. Now investigators must focus on another puzzle. Why did more than 5,000 people die in the disaster, in a country that's renowned for building earthquake-proof cities? When investigators analyze the pattern of fatalities, they discover that the overwhelming majority of deaths occur in the city's suburbs. Here, whole streets of traditional timber-framed Japanese houses simply collapse. 4,900 of the quake's victims die in this type of house. The investigators' first priority is to find out why. They examine the design. They find that these types of houses are simply constructed using a series of timber supports. But topping this lightweight structure is an ornate tiled roof.
A Japanese house has the heavy roof. So you're supporting tons of roofing on really just little spindly columns.
One of these roofs weighs 2 tons. In a modern timber house, solid walls help to brace the wooden supports. But investigators discover that walls in these older houses are made of plaster and bamboo, which have no structural strength. The unbraced posts provide the only support for the heavy roof. When the earthquake strikes, there is nothing to stop the structure swaying and then caving in. It's called a pancake collapse. As the heavy roof pancakes down, it crushes the floors below and anyone unfortunate enough to be inside. It causes nearly 9 out of 10 of the deaths in Kobe.
What killed everyone in Kobe, almost everyone, was the Japanese house. And the Japanese house is a killer.
But if the structure is so weak, why top them with such heavy roofs? The investigators discover an appalling irony. The heavy roofs are built to resist a natural disaster. Not earthquakes, but typhoons. On average, Kobe is hit by more than 2 of these destructive tropical storms every year. (5:46 and 58 seconds). Yukiko Shono's typhoon-proof house is no match for the devastating power of the Kobe quake. The house simply collapses, crushing her and killing her son. The heavy roofs, the very feature that might save lives in a typhoon, prove a death sentence in an earthquake. While the death toll is highest in the traditionally built suburbs, investigators find ample evidence of severe structural damage elsewhere in Kobe City. And investigators are puzzled why so many of Kobe's modern structures also collapse. These should be constructed to building codes specifically designed to withstand a major earthquake. There is no more potent symbol of this failure than the collapsed Route 3 of the Hanshin Expressway. It's 40 kilometers long, elevated above ground level by hundreds of concrete pillars. The quake damages or destroys over half of them. It also topples 26 of its 1,304 sections of roadway. Built in 1969, it was a key transport artery, carrying more than 180,000 cars a day. Its loss cripples Kobe's transport system. The Japanese Ministry of Construction orders an investigation. Engineer Hirokazu Emura is one of the principal investigators. The amount of damage astounds him.
Honestly speaking, we did not expect such a total collapse of the bridges, because we design bridges with the highest seismic force in the world. So we had been thinking that our structure is the strongest.
Emura and the team are mystified. The Hanshin was designed to withstand a magnitude 8.1 earthquake, 22 times as powerful as the magnitude 7.2 quake that decimates it. The public clamors for answers. Were corners cut during the Hanshin's construction?
The first criticism we heard from the citizens is there could have been mistakes made in the construction.
Emura knows that Japanese civil engineering is under the microscope.
We wanted to show citizens that we did not make any mistakes in the construction.
The team begins a forensic examination. One of the key failures is in the eastern suburbs, where Yoshio Fukumoto's bus had a lucky escape. A whole section of roadway has simply fallen off its pillar. It leaves the bus teetering on the very edge of a 15-meter drop. Investigators know this should not be possible. Each 52-meter-long section is securely bolted to the pillars by cast-iron fixings 190 millimeters thick. But when they check the fixings, they discover that the earthquake's violence has sheared them apart. It leaves the slabs of road resting loosely on top of the pillars. But the team still can't understand why the sections of road fall. A single 965-ton slab, like the one beneath Fukumoto's bus, would have to slide 120 centimeters to drop off its pillar. They're convinced that the earthquake alone could not cause such extreme movement. Imura and the team re-inspect the road sections. Then, on the faces of the 33-millimeter thick steel girders that support the roadway, they spot something. The thick steel has been smashed and bent. The investigators realize this damage is caused by the 965-ton girders crashing into each other. These violent impacts act like gigantic hammer blows that force the slabs of road over the edge. 5:46 and 58 seconds. As the quake begins, the steel fixings supporting the slabs of road snap. The sliding slabs crash together, pushing one another across the tops of the pillars. Fukumoto is now driving on a road surface that slides back and forth beneath his bus. Fukumoto screeches to a halt. His front wheels rest on a road section teetering on the edge of its pillar. Then it slips the last few centimeters and crashes over the edge. If Fukumoto had stopped a few meters further on, his bus would have plummeted 15 meters. Chances of survival would have been slim.
The way it was sticking out, I really wondered how we survived.